Hi guys, Debbie Lively here again with Lively View. Have a question for you guys, a real quick question. I always like to start my talks with questions. The question is, do you own a gun? You may not own a gun, but there's a good chance that your white neighbor may own one, a 50-50 chance that they may own one. Let's discuss why that's the case, okay? Stay with me. Okay, you guys, Debbie Lively back. Thanks again for joining me. For all my talks, I always like to invite the ancestors into the room, so let's take a moment to do that. Okay, so we're discussing, well, the topic of my topic today is, are we playing games while they play war? So this whole topic is around gun ownership. And it's really odd for me to even think that I'm, the peaceful person that I think of myself as, that I'm actually discussing this issue about guns. But guys, this couple of weeks, we've seen a lot of guns, right? We've seen guns in some unusual places. We've seen a lot of white people with guns, right? Have you seen, and I'm pointing to, and hopefully my pictures will be here, have you seen this couple in St. Louis, husband and wife? There were protesters walking through their community, going to the mayor's house. They live in the same area as the mayor. They felt the need to come out and brandish these guns. The husband had a rifle, and you can see the wife has a handgun. But we see, regular citizens, regular people coming out, what we think of as regular citizens coming out, brandishing guns, white people, okay? If you didn't see them, maybe you saw this lady in Michigan. She decided, she got into an altercation with a 15-year-old and her mother outside of a Chipotle or a mall or something. But anyway, she got upset enough where she pulled out a gun. And, this black woman and her child, found themselves looking down the barrel of a gun, right? So one other thing I wanted to point out, I always like to do research. So I researched just gun ownership, and I found this chart. And if you can see on this chart, it says that, most guns are owned by white men. So there's probably about 40% of white men who own guns, and 50% of white households have a gun, right? Compare this to 19% of black people who own guns. We have not been, contrary to popular belief, we have not been a violent people, right? We just have not. And what we do know about violence, we learned, right? We learned. So, and you can see this, the stats show that black people have lesser guns or less guns than, our white counterparts, right? So if we go back and look at the talk that I did prior to this, which is that they don't fear you, they don't hate you, or they don't hate black people. Speaking about white people, they don't hate black people, they fear black people. But in that talk, if you haven't seen it, you can go back and watch it. In that talk, what I talk about is, or what I cover is talking about the gun being the equalizer for white people, right? So when white people feel threatened, or they feel like they need to maintain control, or their control is threatened in some way, they tend to reach for their gun, because that is really what has, enabled them to usher in white supremacy and to keep white supremacy in place, is the usage of the gun. And I spent quite a bit of time talking about the gun, right? So I'm gonna read this quote, and I'm referencing again Frances Cress Welsing's book, The ISIS Papers. I want to read a quote that she refers to in terms of how white people tend to reach for the gun and why they reach for the gun, in certain situations. And on chapter, let me see, where is it at? I had it marked here. Okay, so 185 in the ISIS Papers, it says, whenever there is a sense of increased vulnerability within the local or global white collective, right, there will be an increase of the ever-present normal daily slaughter and murder of Black and non-white males by those both legally and illegally authorized to do so. So what she's saying is that when they feel vulnerable, they're going to reach for their gun. And not just police officers, right? And we've seen evidence of that. It's not just police officers who are reaching for the gun, because the people that I showed you earlier, those aren't police officers. Those are white people who just have guns in their houses, right? But what I want you guys to understand is that white people have already been prepping for this, right? And that's why we can't get any major gun laws passed in this country, because white people believe in the case that there is a race war, and I know a lot of them probably feel like what they see happening in the streets in terms of all the protests, that this is a race war that's happening, right? So in light of that, they've always believed if there's ever a race war, they want to be able to maintain control and not be able to be dominated by the dominant race, which is, people who look like me and, you, right? So they've always been prepping for this. And one way that they've been prepping, and I didn't really think about this until I was reading Dr. Francis's book. One of the ways that we see them prepping is hunting, right? I know I used to always think about, why do white people like to hunt so much? And she touches on this in her book. She said that they hunt so that they could stay in that frame of mind, that they could be prepared, that they know how to hit moving targets, right, if they need to. So we see them hunting, and one of the reasons why they're hunting is that so that they could be ready and prepared to use their guns if they feel like they need to, right? And we've seen proof of that, them, one, having guns, and two, being prepared to use them, because they're pulling them on people. I mean, it takes a lot of balls to pull a gun on a person who has no weapon, right? So think about that. So they've been prepping. So in light of that, and like I say, I'm a peaceful person. The fact that I'm having this conversation is just bizarre to me. But one of the things, and I told you guys, I never come and talk about things that I'm not prompted to talk about. But in my meditation, one of the things that I heard my answers say that I'm concerned about protection, right? That was one of the things that I heard. I'm concerned about protection. So I'm like, okay. And then the very next day, I got up and I saw this woman in Michigan sticking this gun in front of this 15-year-old's face and her mother. So I'm like, okay, I guess that's my prompting to talk about, guns. So in light of that, Black people, we need to really be we need to be having some conversations about gun ownership. Should we or should we not have guns? We need to have that conversation. But we have not. So, so we have not. But I also saw this Black man, and I'm gonna put a picture up here, so hopefully he'll be here when I'm pointing. I saw this Black gentleman, and he is a veteran in the Army, and he was talking about this whole issue. He was on the street. He got called because there was some Black women feeling threatened by some Confederate individuals, and he got called to the scene with his gun, right? And he was having this conversation on the street talking to reporters about why ownership for Black people is important. I'm going to show his video at the very end of this, so watch to the very end so that you can see what he's saying, right? But he's talking about this whole ownership about guns. And I'm thinking, okay, like the divine was saying, we have to have this conversation, Daddy. So please, present it. So, but one of the reasons why we Black people, one, we're not a violent people. We're just not, contrary to popular belief, we're not a violent people. But now is the time for us to have this conversation. And one of the reasons that we have not had it is because of fear, right? Because of fear. And I'm gonna go back to Dr. Francis's book and read about fear, because, we have to really get real about this thing. One, just realizing that, we're in a war. And that's what this quote is going to touch on. And I think so I found my quote. So, and she is touching about on fear and why Black people have been reluctant to arm themselves. Okay, she says, we Black people do not see the war being waged against us because we don't want to. And it's because we are afraid. We are engaging in behavior designed specifically to block out any awareness of war, which is our true reality. That's what she says. our true reality is war, but we've been reluctant to block it out. I mean, reluctant to deal with it because we just want to go back to our jobs and, you know, go back to our normal life and try to pretend like, you know, our Black men aren't being hunted, but that's not the case. The reality is there's war, right? And we have to behave in such a way. So we really do need to have a conversation. And like I said, I'm not advocating people run out and get guns, none of that, but we need to at the very least have a conversation about when it's appropriate, why it may or may not be appropriate to have a gun, to own a gun. And I'm talking men and women, right? Okay, and like I said, I'm going to show the African-American guy that I showed who's shown up on the scene with his rifle, what he has to say, because he puts it together. I mean, he explains it much better than I ever could. But we need to have a discussion about it, right? And I just read you her quote, what she said in terms of us being afraid. But we are in times where we can no longer be afraid. We have to have counter actions to what's being displayed and what we're being confronted with. And you know, guns may need to be a part of that conversation. It's hard for me to even believe that I'm saying that, but it's the truth, right? It may need to be a part of that conversation. So stay tuned. I'm gonna play this guy's clip so you can see what he's talking about. And I wanna know what you guys think about gun ownership. So, you know, send me a comment, right? Send me a comment and let me know what you think about it. If it's something you think it's Black people should be considering, should be thinking about, I would like to hear from you. Okay. What else do I want? Oh, please like, share, and comment. But before I end, I want to read one other quote from her book. I love this book, you guys. I'm sure I'm going to be, you know, talking about it more, but I absolutely love this book, The ISIS Papers. What do I want to say? Oh, one other quote that I want to use. And this quote talks about how we should be framing and thinking about our young men. And I'm guilty of this too, you guys. Guilty of trying to, well, I won't get ahead of myself. I'm going to read the quote first and then I'll mention it. So she says on page 92, she says, Black women must learn to rear their sons. Black women must learn to rear sons who will learn from the cradle that their major function as men is not to get a good job and a fine car, but to defend, protect, and support their people in that order, even should death be the consequences. That's contrary to what, you know, so many Black women do, because, you know, we try to protect our sons, and I'm guilty of that. I have a 17-year-old. I'm guilty of that, you know, trying to protect them. But what she's saying is that they need to know what their job is. Their job is to protect their community, to protect their people. And the guy who I'm about to show you guys, so please watch this video, he is an example of that. So like, share, and comment, and let me know what you think about this whole issue around gun ownership. Okay, thanks a lot. Debbie Lively again. I always like to end my talks by saying Ashe, which means that everything that I've said be so. And I will see you guys for the next video. Okay, thanks. Take care.
Gun club.
Did you say sleepers?
Sleep is for the rich gun club.
Why are you guys out here with guns?
Why not? Those guys came on Sunday and they tried to intimidate some innocent women, ladies, unarmed men.
There go one of them right here.
There go one of them right there. Just post up right there. Just people right there. We came out here because those guys came out here trying to intimidate those girls, and they thought that they were gonna have it easy. But one phone call was made, and the whole and everybody came down here armed. No bullshit.
And Louisiana is a total gun state.
Yeah, it's an open carry state, so that's open carry. So that's why we out here.
Who came out here this weekend? Who are you talking about?
The Confederates. You watch the news, right? What station you with?
KTBA.
KTB. Oh, y'all ain't keeping up with that? I bet. So anybody that keeps up with the news, you should know what went on this weekend. You should know. Don't start paying attention whenever we respond to stuff. Alright? Don't start paying attention whenever we start responding. Hey, big dog, hold on. Don't start paying attention whenever we start responding to stuff. The time to pay attention is not when the oppressed people decide to respond to the oppression.
Go ahead, Soldier.
You heard me? The time to be caring about race relations is when it's going down. Don't wait. Why are we still having to come out here and fight over a monument that from people who fought against our country, bro? Y'all don't understand the hypocrisy in that? And then you want to ask why we out here protecting these people? It's about good versus evil, that's why. If you claim to be a white ally and you stand with black people, that's cool. We appreciate that. But it's about good and evil, bro. And if you know what's right, you need to get off your high horse and you need to come down here. And if you're in the black community, like I've been saying all day, if you call yourself a tough guy, if you've never had a club fight, if you ever been in Coco's and had a club fight or any of these nightclubs, Sandbar, Phoenix, give me another one. Where we at? If you could go into a nightclub and be ready to punch something down, you need to come down here and be ready to punch something down for your people and for the right cause. And we starting the gun club. We getting every eligible person of color their gun rights. We gonna make sure that they know their gun rights. We're gonna make sure that damn near every eligible person of color got their concealed carry permits. Any brothers that may have felonies, we working with attorneys right now, and we're gonna help y'all get y'all felonies cleared off your record. So y'all boys can feel safe about protecting yourself. A Bossier police officer, when I was taking my concealed carry class, he told me, he said cops are not crime fighters. Black people, cops do not fight crime. They respond. No, they respond to crime, little daddy. By the time the cops get there, you already been messed over. You done already caught your issue, right? So you need to find a way where you can protect yourself and your family before the cops get there.
Right then and right there.
Right then and there. By the time the cops get there, you need to be explaining to them why you got a few dead men on your front property. That's why we out here. Because we ain't taking no intimidation and no bullying no more. If you white and you stand with us and you an ally, well, you come out here and make yourself known. It ain't enough to be quiet no more. It ain't enough to be quiet no more. Bring your ass out here and stand with us. Quiet don't work. And don't edit nothing out. I don't care if you got to make this a 30-minute, yeah.
Don't add nothing.
And even if you do, it don't even matter.
This is for protection.
This for protection.
This is for protection.
This is for protection. This is for protection. But this is for protection. But don't get it twisted for 1 minute. Don't you get it twisted for 1 minute.
Get that on record.
Year 2020. And I want every black person all over the world to hear me. Black people have always been a peaceful people. Every single American war that this country gave us, black people fought in it, me included.
And not only that, we never had that complex of that.
We never had that complex, bro.
Racial
we would go to war and we
black
come
people
back never had that in the back of our head.
Dog,
We
black
never
people
had
have
that.
showed,
We weren't
dog,
born with that.
we done showed them Harvard graduates. We done showed them business owners. We done showed them genius artists.
President.
President, Harvard, same thing. Man, we've showed this white country every single piece of black excellence we can show them, and they still consider us niggas. They still consider us less than. So guess what? Black people, we're gonna start spinning with us. If you're white and you're not evil, you can come and spin with us. You heard me?
It's crazy that we still fighting for the same thing.
We still fighting for the same shit my granddaddy fought
We
for.
still fighting for rights that they are born
Get my man
with.
right here.
For rights that they are born with, we still fighting for. So we ask us why we out here fight. We out here for a reason. We out here for certain privileges that we're supposed to be born with that we have to fight for.
I was out here 2 weeks ago.
It's good versus evil, big
It's
dog.
good versus evil.
Yeah.
When you put it, it's still certain rights that my child is not born with that other children are.
Yeah.
That's why I'm out here fighting. It's still certain stigmatism that I still have to tell my child to watch for certain stuff if he's ever stopped by this. But other kids on, what's the difference between their kids and my kids? What's the difference?
And then shout out to Leo Savage.
what it
Let's
started.
talk about Leo Savage. Let's talk about Savage. Didn't you run for mayor?
He was all in the black community.
Took one of our votes.
No, fuck no. Well, to whom it may concern.
To whom it may
To whom it may. Yeah, to whom it may concern, bro. Don't speak on none of us carrying guns, and don't because I saw a comment that said, why aren't those men in jail for carrying those assault rifles? But you ain't say nothing about those Confederates when they pulled up trying to intimidate them little girls over there. So that's cool, but when the real men come to defend some shit and just be a symbol of power, now we should be in jail. I hope y'all paid attention to who made that comment on Facebook and don't vote for shit that he got going ever.
That's why we say Black Lives Matter.
Ever. Make sure y'all shop sleepersfortherich.com. Yeah. Because we still hustle.
You gotta put that plug in there. I got 1,000 tuned in right now. Put that plug in there.